nothing.
Opie, have you?
I couldn't do nothing.
Has he reached? Is this the first time he's reaching back out to you guys?
He's been talking to Ben here and there.
And then he was up in Boston when we...
and he was very pissed off that he wasn't on the first half of the Opie and Anthony show today, weren't you? Thank God this wasn't on the first half of the Opie and Anthony show.
Was he reaching out 2 years ago?
Were you?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Why wasn't
I reached out?
Why wasn't you reaching out the entire?
I reached out when when you guys got fired and went to XM.
Well, you did an interview on Fox News.
Now apparently, I guess I pissed you off.
Where's
doing
Ben?
An interview, right?
No, that interview was so
enough
funny.
of the
By the
people
way,
saying that they pissed me off. No, I would have told you.
Are you pissed?
Because I called you.
My ass off. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
Well,
Get Ben in here.
I know. Ben to this day.
When people accuse Opie of getting pissed off.
He was
about
mad about the interview.
he was mad.
He was pissed at me, and I called him the night before. I called you the night before. I said, Opie, I go on Fox. Do you care?
And I said no.
Then why are you mad?
I don't know why he was mad either.
I'm not mad. Jimmy, shut the fuck up.
You seem mad.
He said he wasn't mad.
And that's my suit.
What?
That's my.
We always accused him of having
Ben in here.
Borrowed a suit from the
I'm just trying to find out if
prop department.
if right now he felt he's doing bad and he's just. This is a desperate attempt, but if he was always trying to reach out,
listen, he was. Let me tell you,
I reached out to you guys.
Where's
day
Ben?
one.
I'll be completely honest. I'll be completely honest. Mark wasn't a come in, sit down, and do a break with us guy.
Well, tell Ben we need
Mark
him in
was
here.
the guy that was, he'd go out and do crazy stuff, come running in like a drunken psychopath to comment on some broad that was in the studio or something like that.
He was the Danny of the old show.
Not only was I not a come in and sit down guy, I'm a sit down in front of these fucking animals and tear me apart.
Mark was a very popular part of the NAW show. Mark was a very well-known, well-liked part of the show.
He took chicken to Michael Hebranko.
Let me set this up.
That was his first
Hold
bit.
on. Let me set this up. Ben is on the phone with Washington, but Ben to this day plays Psycho Mark's interview from Fox.
Oh, it's
This thing is one of the funniest things ever.
It's full of inaccuracies, outright lies.
How long after the booting was this? Was this like a week after we got tossed?
When we got tossed for Sex for Sam, they were looking for anyone associated with the show to go on TV and talk on our behalf, because Ant and I weren't talking. Brian Regan wasn't talking, even though he was on the next day. None of these guys. Nobody. Everyone was like, no way, I'm not fucking talking. Psycho Mark decided to go on Fox and Friends. And yes, you did call me ahead of time.
They
I had no problem with it.
I didn't just go out there going, oh, I'm Psycho Mark. You know who I am? I'm going to jump on Fox and Friends.
I think people know if I have a problem with him, I'm going to tell you right to your face.
I heard that interview, and he was all like, well, and the existential
this is what
elements of this...
Ben. Oh,
he
my
turned
God.
into the Psycho Mark that used to do this voiceover work. Have you talked to your doctor about Stacker 2?
I used to love that one.
Ben is in here. Okay. Is that mic on?
Yeah, should be. Oh, the headphones
Try it
gotta
again.
go. Wow.
Backwards. It's on.
Okay.
All right.
Backwards.
We're about to play Psycho Mark.
Funniest thing ever.
Fox and Friends. Why is it so funny?
Because it's so inaccurate.
Ooh.
Yeah, you got the markets.
Now, time out a second. Now, who did I spend hours before that interview prepping with me? You.
Yeah, but
You told me everything to say. I was a puppet. Not me, not bad. No.
Now we get the markets right. Jesus. I think
I don't care about the fucking markets.
So they picked you up in a limo, right?
No, they did not pick me up in a limo.
But he had a suit on so he could look all official.
Yeah.
And then he was talking on our behalf.
Yeah, he was like the closest they could get to anybody to represent the show. And it was somebody who had worked for us a year prior, and then he comes.
Wait a minute, time out a second. I was on the air. I was on the air that day with Ben with another couple. So.
Oh yeah, he was there. Mark was one of the runners.
So I mean,
all right, you were directly involved.
It was a week before,
I wasn't involved.
Wow, how did you swing that, having been fired?
No, he was allowed. Jeremy allowed him to come back.
He used to come back on the show all the time because after I got fired, I was on the bus with Norton.
Yeah, because we bitched and complained and told, look, he does good stuff for us. You got to at least let him continue.
I have no frame of time.
But you got to hear this interview because he's
talking. The dinosaurs came.
He's talking on our behalf. He's getting everything wrong. He's in a suit, looking all official. To this day, Ben plays it like once a week just to laugh.
Hilarious.
Look at Mark. He's nuts.
Listen to this. And remember, this happened like literally within a few days of us getting fired.
This was on
the next day.
It was a Friday. We got fired on the Thursday. This was
we got fired Friday officially.
But it was the Friday morning. The statement went out at 4:00 on a Thursday.
Oh, all right. Then maybe it was Thursday.
Ouch.
I don't want to remember anymore.
I think it was a Thursday. Actually, I do remember that.
This is hurting.
Starbucks.
This is hurting.
So is the next day. Here we go. Listen to this.
Unfortunately for a couple of guys who were making millions of dollars a year, Opie and Anthony in New York City, they were fired yesterday after a couple was caught having sex at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and it was all being broadcast on their radio show.
Joining us now with some exclusive details is a member of that cast, Mark Walsh, better known to Opie and Anthony, on those Opie and Anthony listeners as Psycho Mark.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Mark,
see, he's got the smooth voice.
Yeah,
he's about to say some official stuff.
Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Attention, Red Line passengeros. No fumare on the Red Line Arrows.
I've a busy schedule. I'm doing a lot of other talk shows.
Yeah, right after this segment, he's back to miking everyone at Fox.
They take the suit off. He's back in a T-shirt and jeans, miking the next
Monkey,
guest.
get over here. O'Reilly needs his mic wrapped around his nuts.
But he's very official sounding. Thank you for having me.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Mark, it's a thrill to see you again, especially clean.
Yeah, exactly. With a suit and everything.
I know. I didn't know you
I feel like a pundit, you know.
Give it back to John Scott at the end of the show. That's part of the deal.
Fair deal.
But, Mark, let's talk seriously what happened. Fred was the one, our producer, here to inform you about what happened. You've talked to Opie and Anthony since. What's their feeling about getting
Well, it was a huge thing.
Okay, hold on. I had not spoken with you at all since we were fired. By that point, as you spoke with Opie and Anthony, did Mark speak with you?
He says honestly, I don't even remember if you spoke to me.
No, because I called you. I wasn't going to go on there without your permission.
Okay.
I was in another world. If you say I did, I believe you, actually.
So then it's just the general Opie and... Either of us have the power of attorney to use the Opie and Anthony name.
All right, here we go.
You've talked to Opie and Anthony since. What's their feeling about getting
Well, it was a huge thing, needless to say. I mean, needless to say, the entire stunt was a bad thing.
Needless to say,
I've never heard back-to-back needless to say.
Needless to say.
That is really needless.
That should be like matter and antimatter. Your mouth should explode when you say those things back-to-back.
That phone call from about 10 minutes ago was doing the callback.
Doesn't it, needless to say, make it really important?
Then why are we having this interview?
Needless to say, say no more.
It's like -1 and +1. It's just 0. You say needless to say. Silence.
How they feel? Well, Opie was sad. ... And Anthony also wasn't feeling well either. ...
Needless to say.
Say no more.
I know it sounds nuts, but
Crazy disclaimers that aren't needed.
I love this.
But he's gonna tell the whole nation that it was a bad stunt, a bad idea. Who had the cunt sign on TV?
Yes. That was
But you're going to tell everyone that we did wrong, and
So
it was
what?
a bad thing.
I didn't get credit for the cunt sign for a long time.
We finally gave you credit.
That's it. Yeah. Well, it was a huge thing, needless to say. I mean, needless to say, the entire stunt was a bad thing. What happened was entirely wrong, and the boys are very upset that it even happened.
What was at stake here was a trip to the Sam Adams plant up in Massachusetts, and whoever got the most points would get the free trip, right?
Exactly.
And the way you get points is
you go around town, and the couples would engage in lewd acts, in different ways.
They try to say it casually, you know.
They would engage in lewd acts.
Lewd acts.
Yeah.
He's just trying to sound intelligent.
No, I'm not.
Like an expert. It's Psycho Mark. That's what makes this so funny.
Lewd acts in different places.
So they'd have sex in different places.
Exactly.
For points, and then someone picked the St. Patrick's Cathedral, and even with a 40-second delay,
well, what happened before the show was, and it was explained to everybody that took part in the show, do not go to St. Patrick's Cathedral. This was told to all the participants before we even went on air that day, okay?
Can I ask you something? Were you in that? Were you in that meeting?
No, but I remember the first sex with Sam. Don't go to St. Pat's. Don't fuck with the Catholics.
He wasn't even in the meeting.
No.
What?
It was explained.
You weren't in the meeting. You weren't allowed in the building anymore.
Needless to attend meeting, I just say.
I remember the first meeting from the first Sex for Sam. Don't go near St. fucking Pat's.
He had a memory of a rumor.
Come on. Before the event, we all said, no, you weren't there. You weren't allowed in the building anymore.
It's explained to everybody that took part in the show, do not go to St. Patrick's Cathedral. This was told to all the participants before we even went on air that day, okay?
Well, can I just jump in real quick? I mean, any church there was like 25 points that you could get for going into a church. Wouldn't you just think any church would blow people's
Well, most
minds?
of the stuff that happens is it's radio. It's on air.
Is this Mark?
It's a description.
Yeah. Him and the other guy, they sound exactly alike.
Mark's putting on his broadcaster voice.
He's fucking mocking the other guy. The guy's like, so what happened? What happened? Well, needless to say.
Go by yourself.
I had to get the papers. Get the papers.
He's a complete ass. I don't even know who's who.
It's radio. It's on air. It's a description. It's theater of the mind, so to speak. In other words, those acts necessarily.
So to speak, and in other words, back to back.
Say no more.
In other words, say no more. A bird in the hand, worth two in the bush. Don't burn your bridges before they hatch.
That's right.
Keep your head above water and make your way if you can. Temporary
Keep your feet on the
layoff
ground.
is what I think is going to happen.
And keep reaching for the stars.
I think there's going to be some good times. Easy credit is a ripoff. With some hard work and determination, Opie and Anthony will be moving on up to the east side to a deluxe apartment. Maybe not in the sky, but at least in Long Island.
Needless to say.
They feel like a schlemiel and a schlemazel.
Now, they could get a job with Haas and Trevor Incorporated. Mark is not thrilled with this at all.
Hey, give a steady chance, they'll take it. Give a steady rule, they'll break it.
Hey, and any move, they'll make it. And they are going to make it if they try.
Doing it their way.
All right, back to Mark. His exclusive interview.
Wait a minute, Opie. Let me put this A on my on everything I own.
Here we go. Happens is it's radio. It's on air. It's a description. It's theater of the mind, so to speak. In other words, those acts necessarily aren't really happening, but they are described as on the air.
Now, wait a minute. Are you saying they didn't really have sex? Because the usher says the people were partially naked.
I'm not going to get into the...
If they wanted to do theater of the mind, they would have been in a car outside and said, "We're inside the church, okay."
Well, what happened was there's a fail-safe system on a show. There's a 40-second delay that they use. In other words, they have up to 10 times to dump out of the show within 40 seconds. So if something gets aired that's inappropriate, there's an opportunity to take it off the show.
So why didn't they dump it?
Well, that's what happened. There's a whole chain of command, the system that works with the program director and the general manager.
I don't know who the fuck it sounds like a schizophrenic conversation. They both sound alike.
Here's how you figure it out. Question reporter Drek Mark. He's talking in octagons.
Who the fuck said who said theater of the mind?
He did.
I did. What the fuck was you talking? You know, the Stanislavski method. What? Yes, I had to play a policeman once, and I rode in the back of a police car. What happened?
I just love the fact that he asked Mark, if it's theater of the mind, why didn't they do it somewhere else? And Mark goes, well, there is a dump button. You went into, like, outer space.
Well, they said it was theater of the mind, and they're saying so they didn't necessarily have a... Well, I'm not going to get into detail.
I'm not kidding.
You know what?
We're going to let the president field this question.
The reporter tapped in. He only has 2 levels of intelligence, and the reporter went to the 3rd level. And so he goes, theater of the mind. And that nigga said, oh, shit. No comment. That's his last level of shit. It's the 9th circle of dumbness.
After theater of the mind, he started just going, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
or like when Captain Kirk fucks with one of them robot things by getting him into a paradox. Mark's head just starts smoking. If you are imperfect, then you must destroy yourself. Must destroy.
He's the computer in war games. The only way to win is not to play.
Well, I believe Joshua could best answer that question. The Whopper computer has a 40-second cutoff point.
Why don't you unplug the goddamn dump button?
All right, continuing.
Theater of the mind, and the reporter must have seen the blood trickling out of all his ears and his eyes started.
Mark's theater of the mind is playing Ishtar nonstop.
As he went into Westworld malfunction mode, Yul Brynner, he took off his face. He started to fix his eye at the sink like the Terminator.
He was ready to say to the reporter, "You pig-eyed sack of shit."
Let me go to Jeremy from Jersey. Jeremy, fast. Get in fast.
Right now, it's theater of the mindless.
Oh, shit. Motherfucker.
All right, back to the interview.
That classic stuff.
It works with the program director and the general manager.
Both suspended.
Well, they both have boxes in their office and are able to dump out of the show at any time. Now, they should have been on the post that afternoon monitoring the show. Now, these guys, it's Opie and Anthony. You know, you're not talking about, you don't go to them for news, weather,
This is not Paul Harvey.
Exactly. You don't tune into Fox for dirty jokes. They're shock jocks.
Right.
So you got to stay on top of them all the time.
So yesterday they got fired.
Fuck. We got to stay on top of you all the time.
He's trying to make radio friendly the line. You don't go to us to hard hitting news, and you don't go to CNN for dick jokes.
Right.
Like that's what we used to say.
Right.
And you try to clean that up.
You were the most out of control member of the old show.
Yeah.
We had to stay on top of you.
What are you talking about? I did everything you guys asked me to do.
You were the
did 110% more.
Yes. You would always do
So the problem being
this interview.
Oh shit! The lies.
I
That's
have some
all.
weird feeling
You guys
that
wanted to play it.
He did this for you, though. He
wanted to help us out.
This is really for you in some.
Oh, it is.
Wait till you hear what he says about us coming up.
shock jocks.
Right.
So you got to stay on top of them all the time.
So yesterday they got fired. The general manager and the program director have been suspended. Are they going to get canned too?
Most likely. And what happened is the formats will probably change at the station. You'll probably see a switch probably to light music.
So they're going to lose all that talk and that dramatic switch that Karmazon made happen.
Well, they're on several markets as well. They're number one in Philly. They're number one in Buffalo. They're number one in Cleveland.
Then? Where do they?
Detroit.
We were never on.
Did you catch?
It sounded good at the time.
Hey, we figured it out.
Have never heard of
Here's his fucking profile. Here is Mark's profile. Did you hear? He said, if you turn it back, he said 3 cities that were correct.
Right.
Mark is dumb after the 4th thing. So he came in here with 4 fucking ideas.
Yeah.
He had 4 cities. He went Buffalo, they're number 1. Then at the 4th thing, the reporter asked him 4 questions. On the 5th one, he went
Tahiti.
He malfunctioned after the 4th.
All right, listen, we'll play it again. Here.
Holy shit!
All that talk and that dramatic switch that Karmazon made happen.
Well, they're on several markets as well. They're number one in Philly. They're number one in Buffalo. They're number one in Cleveland.
Then? Where do they?
Detroit.
Malfunction! Danger!
Hey, 3 out of 4.
Detroit.
He had to, in the Terminator when the motherfucker goes, it stinks in there. And he had to run through his. Yeah. He only has 4 answers.
Warning.
Detroit.
Fumbling incompetent. Warning.
Sweden, Haiti, Russia.
Warning.
Are there any other cities? There's a dump button.
Warning.
All right, we get it. Let's move on with this.
You bubble-headed booby.
This is only a 4-minute interview. We've been at it 20 minutes.
Detroit.
Do they move to another station and do their show from here? Because they were fired from Boston, were
Exactly.
they not?
They were also fired
doing
from,
something.
But you know what? I spoke to them last
the mayor's
night.
death. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, for the mayor's death.
Yeah, they made believe the mayor died.
But this is Opie and Anthony. I mean, these guys, they said the mayor was dead on April Fool's Day. Right. I mean, come on. Who's going to really believe it?
Ultimately,
everybody?
This just
how
many people know it's April 1st?
Come on.
Ultimately, though, this shows you how far afield shock jocks have gotten. I mean, it used to be just Howard Stern just talking quasi-dirty, but now we're having sex in a church. The Catholic League, with 350 members, now says, you know what, since they got canned, we're
350 members? You dumb motherfucker. 350 members, there's a force to be reckoned with. 350,000, you jizzbag.
It's like a card game.
It's a Catholic League. They have 7 members, and each one has a cousin. Ass.
sex in a church, the Catholic League with 350 members now says, you know what, since they got canned, we're not going to push for WNEW to lose their license. So they're stepping away from it.
Which is a fair shot, and they had every right to be mad. I mean, Bill Donahue is a good guy, and he had every right to be upset.
Real quickly, did they ever talk about Opie and Anthony? Did they ever sit there and say, well, maybe this is going over the line, or was it just like, hey, let's push the envelope?
With that show, it happened so fast. In other words, it made the air, and it's like, you stepped in crap. Oh, God. What do? You're in it. And it was too late.
Can we bleep that out?
It was all right.
Mark, my last question, are they going to sue to get their jobs back? Because this is what they do. They might have a lawyer that...
Chances are they're in negotiations right now with another company, and we'll probably see them back on the air shortly.
So they'll take millions of dollars from CBS for leaving and go get another job someplace else.
Most likely that's exactly what's going to happen.
All right, Mark Walsh, thanks very much for giving us the exclusive details on the morning show.
Robin.
All right, thanks very much.
Well, no shit.
He said we were in negotiations with another company. We'd be back on the air shortly. 2 years, 3 months later. Shortly. Where did you get that part from? We weren't in negotiations
relative to a human lifespan.
He was making it up.
It is pretty short.
Shortly when looking at the Big Bang.
I sat with Sparks the whole night for hours before I went on that interview, and we talked about the whole thing, what we were going to say, what I was going to say.
You are actually defending yourself by saying you were briefed by Ben Sparks.
I'm too retarded. I can't even remember more than 4 things. How am I supposed to do it?
If he was briefed by Ben,
Christ.
if he was briefed by Ben, they would every question he would have went, well.
Here comes Ben.
I didn't brief you on everything.
Bullshit. We sat in a bar and we sat there and drank, and we're like, what should I talk about when I go on?
You were all on your own.
Oh, that's it. Send me down the river like a Vietnamese
down the river. You went on. You were dying to go on. You were dying for the attention.
Hey, look, you get it when you can. What can I say?
I love that interview.
Yes. All right.
I'm glad it.
A lot of people.
It is funny, though. It is funny.